Hey, how's it going, guys, and welcome back to Monster Tamer News, the segment on this channel where we go over the past week's developments in the monster taming genre. Now, I will say right off the bat, this is a relatively slow week due to the fact that the Monster Taming Direct took place last week, covering a ton of new content. So while I do have some news for you guys, if you really want to check out some wild new reveals and trailers and stuff like that, go check it out, linked below. It was a ton of fun. And those of you who were there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyways, we are going to talk a little bit about the Direct today. We also have a Kickstarter game that essentially lost $60,000 through fraudulent funding. We've got a translation for a Japanese-only Digimon game that has now been completed and more. So as per the usual, make sure to sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Okay, so first things first, and the main reason why I'm sure a lot of you guys are here, is the fact that Digimon Story Lost Evolution actually had its fan translation finished today, or I guess yesterday as of the time this video is going live. This is a Nintendo DS Digimon title that exclusively released back in Japan in 2010 and acts as the third installment to the Digimon Story franchise. I think Decoded, aka the people who are translating these games, are doing a really good job by focusing on this DS title, because I think that DS and 3DS games are the least likely to ever get official modern day ports and translations, especially based on what the developer said regarding porting these types of games over being very difficult. That being said, we are going to dive into the game tomorrow on the channel, so stay tuned. Serialum Ultimate actually had an unfortunate announcement a few days ago, that being that the PS4 and Xbox ports will no longer be made and instead are being canceled. Now, that being said, before anybody freaks out and says the developer is trying to scam them or something, the dev has offered a free Steam key and a refund if requested for any backer that backed for that specific platform. Basically, from what I understand from the Kickstarter post, the Xbox and PlayStation updated their requirements in order to submit games to their platforms, which caused Zach to have to upgrade from Game Maker Studio 1 to Game Maker Studio 2, which in and of itself came with a host of issues. From my own experience using the engine, I know that when you upgrade from 1 to 2, there's a lot of conversion that needs to take place because there's a lot of legacy code in Game Maker 1 that does not function in the same way that it does in Game Maker 2. With Serialum being one of, if not the largest Game Maker game ever, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if the conversion caused a lot of weird issues to occur, because it doesn't necessarily get it right when you automatically convert it. When I was messing around with the Game Maker Studio project, I had that same issue when I upgraded from 1 to 2, with certain bugs that would appear that I'd have to quash, and that was just on a tiny little project I was working on. I can only imagine the difficulty behind something as big as Serialum. Anyways, all of this is to say that knowing Zach, he probably broke his back in order to make this work, but decided to cut his and his backers' losses and is offering refunds to those who ordered these specific keys. So at the end of the day, while it's disappointing, it's not like he tried to run off with the money or anything like that. Okay, so this next Kickstarter situation is actually wild, and let me just say that I don't know what exactly happened behind the scenes. I don't report to know anything like that, but like we just did with the Metabot situation, let's just say this situation is very wild and strange. So you might remember Dinosaur Kingdom, a monster taming game inspired by Dinosaur King that was sort of supposed to be the unofficial rebirth of the series, and its Kickstarter campaign, which raised roughly 71,000 euros by the time of its completion. Well, it turns out that over 60,000 of that 71,000 was actually fake. So basically, if you don't know how Kickstarter works, you can choose to pledge any given amount, but you're only charged when the Kickstarter is complete. If you don't have enough money, it will bounce and the developer will not get that money, but the game will still count as funded. So apparently whoever it was that donated like $60,000 plus in smaller increments using different accounts, they basically put up that money, didn't have it or whatever, their cards got declined, they didn't fix the payment method in order to actually give the funds. And it's kind of clear that whoever this was actually not trying to pledge, but instead inflating the Kickstarter amount for some reason. Now, according to the developers, after all of the declined and fake pledges, they only actually have just over 3,000 euros, which is far less than the $10,000 goal. They stated in their update that this is good because at least they'll still receive the money, but in my opinion, this isn't a good thing because now people are backing an unsuccessful game that may or may not hold the promises that they backed for. I have seen in a few circles here and there people accusing the developers of pumping up the Kickstarter themselves, because a lot of people know that if a game has more backing, it tends to actually exponentially grow because it's put forward on the Kickstarter algorithm. People feel more secure in backing it because others do. The stretch goals are included, etc. But let me just say that I don't know whether or not that's the case. I'm not accusing them of doing that. It's also just as possible that perhaps one of the developers had someone that didn't like them and did that to them on purpose to screw them over. In my opinion, the best course of action would just be to refund all the backers and try again via a different platform like Patreon or something where pledges are actually guaranteed once they're put in, just because this is a really sticky situation for backers. So I'm hoping they're able to get it together and create this game or refund the pledge if not. The Patch Quest developer confirmed that the full version of the game is actually available right now on the Steam beta branch. However, the official full access release for Steam will be March 2nd of this year. It was initially going to come out last year, but it's nice to see that we have an official date now and we can look forward to seeing what the final build looks like. The Lumentale developers, whom again are the developers behind Pokemon Xenoverse, have announced their pre-launch Kickstarter page, which is now live. This means that you can go there, click the little button to get notified when they actually go live with the campaign, which will be on the 10th. So I'll leave it linked below, and I urge anybody that is interested to actually click it because it'll give them an idea of what to expect when they do go live, and I think it might help them in the Kickstarter algorithm. As per the usual, I'm going to say that I'm personally looking forward to this game, and I'm gonna probably back it because I can very easily see what the developers are capable of via Pokemon Xenoverse. However, we will be reading through the Kickstarter and discussing it as usual, and I'm gonna say when it comes to Kickstarters, I will showcase them, but I urge everyone to come to their own conclusions based on what they see. I personally think that this is gonna be a good one, but we have seen some shenanigans in the past with Kickstarter and its platform, so I just gotta throw that disclaimer in there because I can only make judgments based on what I see at any given time. Finally, before we head into the rapid fire segment, we did have the early access release of Weirdlands, a Final Fantasy inspired monster taming RPG where you're whisked away into some strange magical world which exists parallel to your own. I played a little bit of the game during a Let's Try episode where we kind of dip our toes into different games and decide whether or not to turn them into full-blown playthroughs, and I must say it's a lot of fun so far. I definitely felt a little bit confused at times, but overall the game has some solid pixel art and mechanically it plays really well. It will be linked below, so definitely check it out if you're interested. Alright, next up we're going to head into the rapid fire news for updates that don't require lengthy explanation. First of all, we have a showcase for some new Nova types in Digimon. We have a short clip showcasing how the warps work in Anode Heart. Here we get to see a nice shot of every disc creature revealed in 2022 for Disc Creatures World. We have 50 new graphics for the Centipedia and Sky Climbers. Here we got a new Gremlin with multiple forms for Gremlin's Tail. And finally, last but not least, a new water type Zokai for Zokai. And there you go, another fun week in the genre, a little slower, but still some pretty cool stuff. And I mean, it's only technically slower in the news segment because I didn't include the entire wealth of updates present within the Direct that happened like 9 days ago and sort of replaced Monster Tamer news that week. But I just quickly wanted to discuss the Direct a little bit because I know some people only watch Monster Tamer news each week, so you might not have seen my Future of Monster Taming Directs video. And I highly recommend you do because I'm only going to briefly discuss this here. But basically, the Direct in and of itself was a success as far as I'm concerned. We had almost 900 peak concurrent viewers and an average of about 806. This very much exceeded my expectations and ultimately resulted in what I thought was a pretty good presentation overall. I'll definitely say there were some snags and improvements that I'd like to make for the future, but I think it was pretty good. I haven't decided whether or not I want to do this every 6 months or every year. At first, I was leaning towards once a year because it makes a Direct feel a little more special and gives developers more time to prepare, but it also has a negative side effect of putting maybe too many developers all focused on the same goal, which might cause it to be too long. The original goal was to make sure the presentation was 45 minutes to an hour maximum, and while we hit that sweet spot at 59 minutes and 50 seconds, I did have some people say that it felt a little bit dragged out. So I think 45 minutes would be a perfect sort of length for a video like this. Now, we had about 33 submissions. There were a few that were non-exclusive, which could be cut out, so you can bring that down to about 30. The thing is, if I did it once a year and I wanted to bring down the time, I definitely have to put a sort of 2-minute maximum on submissions. But even then, 30 submissions times 2 minutes, that's 60 minutes just by itself. So I think having it happen once every 6 months would be better so we can sort of split the amount of submissions between the two directs, because I think the majority of games would only be interested in participating in one of the two, and then we could sort of allocate slots based on that. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comments about that. The Direct is a lot of work to put together, so it's not like it's something that I could just do overnight. So it's definitely gonna require a lot of thinking on my part, but I'm really excited for what 2023 will have to offer with regards to just game releases in general and the Monster Taming Directs, whether it be one or two. All that being said, if you liked what you saw, subscribe, check out my Discord, my Twitter, my Patreon, all links below. Special thanks to the patrons, especially Jim Hamilton, Dro Ghost, Dark Persona, and Exodus, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.